Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. In Titans news, the team claimed linebacker David Long Jr. off of waivers yesterday, but he failed his physical today and will return to waivers. The Titans, in addition, yesterday placed linebacker Kenneth Murray on injured reserve. In the NBA, the Christmas Day games did not disappoint as the Lakers and Warriors went down to the wire as a late Austin Reeves layup lifted the Lakers over the Warriors 115-113. Steph Curry led both teams in scorings with 38 points and 8 3-pointers. In Vols news, quarterback Gaston Moore and defensive back Christian Harrison both entered the transfer portal today, and they will be leaving the UT program. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045 if you want to get in on the conversation. And no, there's nothing wrong with your radio or your YouTube. My voice just sounds that way today. Battling a little bit of a head cold, a little bit of congestion in the throat. So you now kind of sound like a 70-year-old smoker. Been smoking for 60-something years.
We know that's the real truth.
Yeah. The rookie quarterback rumor mill is starting to rev up here in the Nashville area, Blaine. You may missed it on Christmas Eve, but Buck and TD have both came out and talked about the interest that this team is showing in the quarterback class, of the upcoming quarterback class, of course, headlined by Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward. Buck came out first. I believe it was on the Tuesday evening edition of the primetime show that he does for A to Z Sports. He said, this front office does not want to draft a quarterback. I'll tell you that definitively right now. Whether they end up doing so or not is going to be interesting, because I think that would be telling about who's running the show. I've talked to multiple people in that front office, and they are not interested in this quarterback class. TD has come out and said, in reply to that, I'll definitively counter that Shadur is absolutely in play if they have the opportunity to select him. That's from multiple very high-ranking sources. I'd say it really depends on where they draft and if he's available. He goes on to say, would be surprised if they took Cam Ward. So it sounds like really, Shadur Sanders seems to be firmly on their radar, and it has been talked about. I've said it, a few other people whose opinions you may trust more, the listeners, may trust more, have said it, that Shadur Sanders is a perfect fit for what Brian Callahan wants in terms from his quarterback. But the quarterback, we're not even done with the regular season, and the quarterback rumor mill is already starting up for the Tennessee Titans.
Well, naturally, because it's the quarterbacks. What did you see in film? I haven't watched him yet, and I'm going to wait till the season's over. And Shadur Sanders, because you've said this repeatedly, so to your point, you've done a great job on that, that he fits this scheme and system. Because first and foremost, I don't even know how I would even title this scheme and system. So what makes you think that he can fit, and more so him than the others? I mean, it's hard for me to kind of even see that just watching from afar of Shadur Sanders in glimpses and highlights and a little bit of their games, but nothing really extensive.
So we have heard this kind of like a chain moving offense. They prefer to have a progression read offense is kind of how we have heard this offense titled, right? Mm-hmm. Like that is what they want to be. That is their identity and hope to be. And what Shadur Sanders does really well is layer in the throws in that short to intermediate area with pinpoint accuracy. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in this draft class. He actually leads the nation in completion percentage, which is also something that ranks really highly on this list of traits that, Brian Callahan has talked about wanting his quarterback. It's not to the extent of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow obviously was on another level coming out from his college year to senior year into the draft. And you knew that you had something truly special with Joe Burrow, but a lot of the Joe Burrow's traits carry over to Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is about as calm and even kill as it could be. Big moments, small moments, doesn't matter. He has that, kind of killer mentality, that serial killer, sociopathic attitude on the field. He doesn't have the biggest arm. He doesn't have like a Will Levis, Josh Allen, or even Lamar Jackson kind of arm, but he has an arm capable of making the deep throws, and he's all about timing and accuracy. And that is something that this team has really been wanting and emphasizing throughout this entire year. So I look at it like, I know he's not Joe Burrow, but if you were talking about the traits that make Joe Burrow an attractive guy, like as far as, his ability to maneuver in the pocket to kind of make plays, kind of, wait for a play to develop even in a muddled mess. That's a lot of what that's a lot of what Shedeur Sanders does.
So he's more of a pocket passer that's accurate, that can maneuver in the pocket.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not that I like too.
Yes,
so
he's not Cam Ward or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson to a lesser extent. He's more in terms with, your Joe Burrows, your Jared Goffs and stuff like that.
Right, who can actually, keep the chains moving if they have to with their legs, but they're trying to beat you with their arms. So I'm interested to see. If they see everything that you see, I don't know why he won't be the first pick.
Well, I look at it like this. We don't know who the Giants' first off coaching staff's going to be.
Right.
So I think Cam Ward is going to dominate that interview circuit. From everything I've heard about Cam Ward, the person, he's really going to dominate that, the interviews, the pro days and stuff like that. When you get your one-on-one times with your coaches and stuff, and sometimes that stuff matters, sometimes it doesn't.
So this is what you're hearing?
Yeah, this is what I'm hearing. Okay. And I look at Cam Ward and I'm like, man, if you're Brian Daboll, let's say Brian Daboll sticks around, right? Brian Daboll's, still going to be the Giants' head coach. If there was a guy that probably was the most like Josh Allen in this draft, it would be Cam Ward. Like, he has that high potential, high upside. And that teams and owners love that high potential, high upside without looking at how low that floor may be. So I kind of feel like Cam Ward could possibly still be quarterback one, depending on who is the first team picking.
Depending on the coaching staff, because you don't know who's coaching staff.
Right.
Which all makes sense. So the top, give me the order of the top, 4 or 5 Titans, maybe fourth pick, I think.
Yeah, fourth pick right now. I mean, obviously, if they lose to Jacksonville, they move up to 3 because Jacksonville's number 3.
Oh.
Then you look at, and then you look at new Giants could possibly, facing an Eagles team that may sit people. Right. So
they may beat the Colts this weekend.
Yeah, they may, and that too. So you kind of look at, they could get up to number 1 overall, but a lot of things have to go right. I mean, like New England has to win. Then you look at the Giants has to win, and then of course Titans have to lose out.
So you got Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and any other quarterbacks you like?
No, not in the first round, and not even in the top 5. I mean, this is kind of a quarterback class that reminds me of like Winston and Marcus, or Goff and Wentz.
Okay,
this is there's 2 guys. Okay. There's 2 guys that are clearly the guys.
Well, reason why I was asking, because, let's say those 2 are gone and the Titans end up number 3. Typical Titans, right?
Yeah.
And so you miss out on your top 2 quarterbacks in the draft. And then who do you pick if you're number 3?
See, that's the thing. And that's a question that was presented to me by Ramon, Kalen, Will the Christmas Eve morning. Is like, who is the player that makes the biggest impact on this Tennessee Titans team?
Right, that's what I'm asking. I mean, I'm not asking who's the most talented.
To me, Travis Hunter is obviously the can't-miss prospect. He's the guy, all this stuff, right? Like, he's that guy. It's very hard for me not to want to draft that guy. But if you're talking about impact, I'm going to Abdul Carter, because you got L'Jarius Sneed, Cheeto, Roger McCreary, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Darrell Baker Jr. I mean, like, you got a pretty tight-lipped, pretty good cornerback room. So, like, Travis Hunter may come in and be your guy opposite L'Jarius Sneed. He may be able to lock down. But if you're talking about biggest impact on this team, it's Abdul Carter. They don't have a game record and nowhere.
Yeah.
And listen, as much as I like Jeffrey Simmons and think that he's really turning the corner, and as much as I love Tavondre Sweat, they don't have a game wrecker. And Abdul Carter is a game wrecker. And Travis Hunter is the best player in the NFL draft. By far, I think, the best overall prospect, but you're playing him at corner and he's only going to give you 10 to 20 snaps at wide receiver. That's not enough to maybe pass over a guy like Abdul Carter.
Right. Well, and I'm going to change. I know what you're meaning, but game wrecker, also game changer in that he's a pass rusher.
Yeah.
I think Jeffrey Simmons is a game wrecker, but he's not a pass rusher. And you can also wreck a game with pass rush, as I know, you know, and everybody else knows. So I would probably concur. Reason why I bring it up is because I heard something crazy. I don't know if you'll be able to pull this, Sammy, but I can paraphrase. I just heard this commercial earlier today while I'm driving in my car from Ron Slay. And he says if we have an opportunity to draft Travis Hunter and we don't draft Travis Hunter, first of all, he's getting off the bandwagon of the Titans for all time. He said he will walk on the freeway backwards on the wrong side of the road.
Well, now that just kind of adds an extra layer, right? You kind of want to see that now.
He's going to have to backtrack that. And if I got that a little bit wrong, I'm listening to a commercial advertisement, but he said something to that way. And Ron Slay, if you're listening or anybody listening who heard him say that, please let me know. So I thought that was really interesting. If they pass up on Hunter, if he's available, and then the quarterbacks are gone, that he would
Travis Hunter would be my number, if you're in the big boards, number one.
Right. Well, I get what you're saying.
Carter's
he's the
number
best
two.
athlete, but we all know the best athlete doesn't go first.
Yeah.
It's just like the quarterbacks go ahead, even though they're not the best players, they are the best quarterbacks, and it's the most important position. Where would you rank wide receivers, though, as far as priority for teams now? I know it's changed over the years, for sure, but they can only still be as good as their quarterback.
Right.
Because they're an extension. That somebody got to get them the ball, right? You ain't got to do anything with the defensive end. He just goes wreck shop.
And there's a lot of teams with like 2 or 3 wide receivers now, in the rotation that can impact games and everything. It'll be really interesting. I'm a Luther Burden guy. I know there's a Tennessee Titans fan base is obsessed with T-Mac out of Arizona. Mm-hmm. But I like my wide receivers to play big, whether they're 5'10 or 6'5, and Luther Burden plays big. Luther Burden has always reminded me more of
to Missouri
A.J. Brown than even Traylon Burks reminded people coming out of thing. Because a lot of people said Traylon Burks, A.J. Brown kind of remind each other. To me, Luther Burden is a guy that's a yards after catch ability. And you talk about wide receiver only as good as his quarterback. His volume numbers have dipped, yards and touchdowns. But like his yards per catch, yards per target, and everything else either stayed the same or got better from the year that last year where everybody had him wide receiver 1. So I'm a big Luther Burden guy. So like really Luther Burden at 3.
What's his number size?
Yeah.
Wait, what's his
I think he's going to measure in I think it's 6 feet. Okay. But we'll look at that after the break.
Like, A.J. Brown a little bit.
Yeah. While we're at break, we are going to, I'll check in on that. We'll talk more about Luther Burden. We'll also talk more about the quarterback situation for the Tennessee Titans and fit. Because like I said, Shedeur Sanders fits. Will Levis has proven that he doesn't fit. So what do you do from here on in with both Will Levis and the future of the quarterback position?
And I want to hear your proposition on moving down in the draft in the first round and get 2 picks in the first round.
Would you like
do
that?
It and how could that happen?
That. We'll check it. I'll check the draft order. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, folks, I've been talking about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for years because they're the leading experts in sports medicine and performance and the team physician for the NFL, college, and high school athletics across Tennessee. And TOA provides sports medicine coverage to more high school and college sports teams than any orthopedic group in the state of Tennessee. They have 29 locations throughout the state and over 100 physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. And TOA also has 11 urgent care locations and walk-in availability 7 days a week. They offer direct access to sports medicine and performance, physical therapy, and nutrition. Personalized rehabilitation plans to enhance mobility, reduce pain, and improve overall physical function for patients recovering from injuries or surgeries. And TOA also offers sports performance training, a specialized program designed to enhance athletic performance and provide tailored training solutions for athletes at all levels. So please check out their services at TOA.com. Yes, for more information, you must go to TOA.com.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
He's not good.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. May help if I plug in my headphone. I'm like, why is it so low? Why is the volume so low?
Well,
So we were talking about Luther Burden. Luther Burden currently measures in at 5'11". We know that sometimes I've seen people say 6'2" on some of this stuff, but like,
I think
he's
AJ
probably
Brown was 5'11".
Yeah, he's probably right at
That's what he
5'11".
measured. So he's probably more 6 foot. You know how they do it at the combine. I was there. They put you 3 feet away from the wall and go backwards. Yeah, you're gonna be shorter.
And he's also a little bit over 200 pounds.
I needed help, Sammy. I was already somewhat short. So for NFL,
They weren't giving you that boost.
I'm like, how am I 5'8" and 3/4"? I've been 5'8" since I was in 8th grade.
They got you.
Yeah, well, they weren't trying to help me. Except when they couldn't stop that 42.5 over that vert. They sure got me on that 44.5, though.
So we're talking about, the draft. The rumors are that, the Titans aren't really in love with this quarterback class. I think the truth's somewhere in the middle between TD and Buck's reporting, by the way.
Oh.
I think Buck's right. They're not really in love with this quarterback class, but I also think that TD's right. It's a one quarterback class in the Tennessee Titans' mind. Whether that stays that way all, off season.
Shedeur Sanders is
Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
So it's interesting because you asked, before the break, what about trading back? And I could see that being really high on the list of wants for this Rand Carthon or whoever really.
So it's going to take three quarterbacks, though, wouldn't it?
It would take you out of the quarterbacks.
No, I mean 3 quarterbacks. If you don't want a quarterback, but you want to act like you want a quarterback,
there you go.
Take 3 quarterbacks because if you have the third pick, then maybe. Reason why I say that is because the Titans need multiple positions.
Mm-hmm.
If you already decided in free agency, you're probably not going to go that route, but you could still say you're going to get a quarterback for the future. Is if you move back now, you can get 2 players maybe in the first round. You move back to maybe 12, and then maybe you have a later pick, maybe 22 or 24. And now you can get 2 for the price of 1 if you already have your quarterback.
And what's weird about this draft class is, again, sometimes timing is everything in the NFL.
Very true.
And right now, this draft class is also devoid of talent. So you're talking about like true first round grades. Some people say no more than 10. Some people say there's only 5. There's only like
5.
Yeah.
I was
so like
what?
if you trade back,
I should have came out this year.
So you're trading back, you're going to miss out on more than likely one of those top 5 guys. And it's really,
so this is
I think,
not the year to do
I think it may be even less because like if you're talking like true blue chippers, it's like Travis Hunter. Yeah, I think it's just Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. Like, I think there's only 2 real blue chippers in this class.
You don't want to do that if you're the Titans.
Right. So that's the other thing is this team is devoid of elite talent as much as it is just devoid of talent. Mm-hmm. That's the problem with trading back in this particular draft class because, like we said,
screwed. We are screwed.
Timing's everything. And they have the worst. This franchise has the worst timing of any franchise currently going, I think.
We cursed.
It kind of feels that way. This must be what Detroit Lions fans felt like until they, made the Goff and Stafford trade. You know what I'm saying? Like, until they made that trade, they felt like probably we always have the worst timing. Then they make that trade, get a couple first-round picks, and the players, the Tennessee Titans don't have a player that could do that besides possibly Big Jeff, net you a haul of draft picks. But then you're 1 step forward, 2 steps back because you're getting rid of one of your only considered elite players in the NFL on this team.
Oh, and leader.
Yeah, and leader. Like, I mean, you just go backwards then because it's
I would
tough.
consider it.
You have to consider.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's just the way it goes.
But that's where it's tough because then you think about this because I think this leads into my next question to you, Blaine, is that okay, let's say they are high on Shedeur Sanders and they somehow get Shedeur Sanders. They have to do a lot of work in the free agency to set up Shedeur Sanders for success.
I put on my brakes.
Yeah.
Hold on. What about all these people in the chat? Deion Sanders won't let him go to the Titans.
Yeah. He said he would. He said, listen, he had to stop himself talking bad about Will Levis on Shannon Sharp's podcast. He goes, he was starting to go off on it because like he, along with many other people in the national media, say the Tennessee Titans don't have a quarterback.
Right.
And which is true. You wouldn't be talking about drafting Shedeur Sanders if you had a quarterback. And he said, well, I better stop myself, Shan. I better pull the reins back because my son could be going to Tennessee. So he could be coming to Nashville. So I better, watch what I say about the current quarterback there.
Right. He was trying to do it out of respect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand this idea. Like
I don't either.
The Giants would probably be the team that he doesn't want them to go to because I know there's some, ill will between Giants and Cowboys and all this stuff. But when you go through the list of things that they have, to set up a quarterback for success, I think there's too much in flux with the New York Giants for Deion Sanders to want to go over there. I know that he said no to Carolina at one point and no to Cleveland. Now, we haven't heard anything, as far as I know, I haven't heard anything on record about the Giants. It's just, just an assumption. But you do have to wonder, what can Shedeur Sanders do to maneuver his son, what can Deion Sanders do to maneuver his son Shedeur Sanders into whatever position they feel is best for their future?
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's kind of how I view it. I don't know if he could really say Deion Sanders. I think it's his agency, it's his dad, as well as Shedeur, because I look at it as just like Eli Manning or Peyton Manning or all these guys who are elite level players, and they want to go to certain organizations for whatever reason, or they don't want to go to a certain organization. So I mean, if I'm Shedeur, I don't. It's in flux, but the Giants. But I would also think about this new coach. He's tied to me, and I'm in a big market, New York. He can't get no better than the big city of dream of New York City. So now what comes with that is you got to understand there's going to be pressure, and there will be vultures all over the place, especially from the media side. So I don't know if I would direct my son or have my agency kind of direct away from these guys. Now, Carolina, that one definitely is a no-no. I think that's why he went out on a limb, Deion did, about that one. I mean, that organization is in flux, and it's just...
I mean, really, now they don't need a quarterback.
Right. Well, you just never know with them, don't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a don't-know. So I get it, but they act as though Deion's the villain in this, and in theory, he really isn't. He's just trying to make sure that he puts his son in the best spot, as well as his agency, whoever represents him, where he can have success. So he's no different than Eli and Peyton, all these other big timers. It just hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah. I think the Shedeur, Deion Sanders family dynamic is a little bit overblown at this point. I mean, Deion's going to have his hands full with doing stuff in college ranks. Mm-hmm. He still has to, make sure that his team in Colorado is still being ultra competitive, because I'm sure he has eyes on bigger job opportunities for himself as well. He ain't going to have time to be babysitting, Shedeur at training camps and all this kind of stuff.
Saying. I don't understand what people think he's going to be doing. Oh, by the way, I did see this podcast of him, Deion, with Antonio Pierce, at some banquet or something, acting as though he wanted to go to the Raiders.
I think the Raiders...
saw that. This is live.
Yeah, well, Tom Brady apparently trains with Shedeur Sanders here and there throughout the year.
He is part of it, right?
Yep. Minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. They need a quarterback. That's why their loss, or their win over the weekend, was a huge loss in their draft pick. Because now you kind of you may have to trade up, and maybe that's a team that, if you're the Titans, you're kind of putting out this stuff about Shedeur Sanders, your interest in Shedeur Sanders, so you can get them to trade up and not fall so far back, because they'll likely overpay, because bad organizations tend to overpay, for in certain situations. And I could just see this team giving someone a bounty to make sure they leap either in front of Tennessee or they leap with Tennessee. It would be really interesting to see how that all plays out towards the end of the season, too.
Well, that would be funny, because the Raiders was going to draft Penix, and they missed out on that last year. So that if that happens, that'll be 2 years in a row they didn't get their quarterback. So I'll be really fascinated to see where they end up, because I think that's who really wants Shedeur.
Yeah, let's go to Richard, who wants to talk about the Titans versus Jaguars. Richard, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
I heard that we have the keys to the game. The keys to the game will be run with Tony Pollard and just be able to do something. And Tony Pollard will start at running back against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Plus, there's two more keys to the game. Get throwing skills to Calvin Ridley and Nick Westbrook-Ikede. And the final keys to the game is to get beneath the blocks and get beneath the to stop the tackles as a running back. And also, the thing is that the Tennessee Titans has to draft Daron Johnson, wide receiver out of Tennessee State University, okay?
All right. I like it. I'll have to add that name to the list of tape to watch because I haven't watched the Tennessee State wide receiver yet that he's talking about. But I mean, some good keys to the game from Richard on the Jacksonville game. You got to definitely get Calvin Ridley involved, and you definitely want to get Tony Pollard going as well, especially against the Jaguars.
Well, watch this. They better be able to stop the run.
Yeah, that needs to be number one.
I'm sorry, man. They end up with you know what, man. With the Commanders and the Colts running somewhat similar schemes to get these running backs free. And, I mean, untouched? That one there, man.
They thought they were going to get maybe a little bit of a heavy hitter, a little bit of homecoming with David Long Jr. They signed him to the practice squad, but he failed his physical. I guess Vrabel did get that one right. Yeah. Talking about
what was it, a muscle or
they didn't say what it was, but
well, I'm gonna say this: there's always a way to make you flunk your physical, and there's always a way not to make you flunk your physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's say I need a reconstructive shoulder surgery. This is a real story. And then they say, well, we know what you can do, so we're going to sign a waiver. You know this organization because I think everybody knows T.O. signed a waiver in the Super Bowl for his ankle, and then we'll be fine. And I said, absolutely, but we're going to make sure that we deduct some pay here for this because if we see it, there's no way somebody else is going to sign you for this. Unless they give you a waiver.
Right.
So, I mean, with that being said, now, if he could be available is the question. Would he be able to be available? Now, if his injury is where he can't play, then that's a different story.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, because they even said the question was asked today to Denard Wilson about Jerome Baker, and he's like, all hands on deck for the linebacker position. Which kind of makes you wonder, like, man, they don't really like Jerome Baker, do they? If he's just like
And this is a guy they were pursuing, right?
They pursued him.
They brought him on a visit.
But they didn't like his medicals. That was the big thing coming out of that visit was that they didn't like his medicals. And then he went up to Seattle, played a little bit injured, got dinged up. And he didn't really do much in Seattle. And then, Seattle trades him it's involved in the trade package for Ernest Jones. And
He didn't get injured, though. He's not been injured, has he?
I think he I don't think he has gotten injured. I think he's been a healthy scratch, actually.
Yeah. You know one thing we've talked, since you bring up the linebackers?
Go ahead.
Cedric Gray actually, I think he looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And I loved his intensity. It was showing on special teams, especially after he missed that tackle. The guy spun out of it. He has played with this fire that I just resonate with. And I just said, this guy may be a dude.
I hope. I mean, he's going to have probably a lot of chances to prove it. What I thought was so interesting was that he ended up wearing the green dot for that game. So, the 2 weeks before against the Bengals, when everybody started going down with injury, they gave the green dot to Amani Hooker. And then Cedric Gray came out after that. I think he only played like 2 or 3 snaps that game. Then Cedric Gray this week got the green dot. That does go to show you, because they could have given it to Amani Hooker at the time. Amani Hooker wasn't injured yet, but that goes to show you that Cedric Gray behind the scenes is making some kind of progress that, we may not see all the time, but is making progress enough that the team has faith in him to wear that green dot. Now, it didn't work out very well for the Titans, so maybe there's a different issue going forward because Kenneth Murray's on IR. So Kenneth Murray is not going to be seen the rest of the year. So what does Cedric Gray and James Williams do with this massive opportunity? And, of course, Otis Reese is in that too. So if it's Cedric Gray and Otis Reese starting out there, then you would have to assume that Cedric Gray would continue wearing the green dot. So it'll be very interesting to see how they handle it.
Reese got hurt last game too as well.
Yep.
Now, he may not be on IR, but he may not be available. This game.
They're down to them 3 as linebackers, as far as I know.
Baker?
Oh, yeah, and Jerome Baker. We were just talking about Jerome Baker. I've forgotten him just like the Titans staff has.
Because he's kind of been a non-factor.
Yeah, right.
This year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But, this is, I don't know, man. I'm really, really interested in seeing what team shows up, not just for the Titans, but also for the Jags. Because there's been a lot of smoke out there now. That the coach is pretty much done. He's dead man walking. They're already talking about coaches out there, or down there in Florida. So, Yeah, will guys now go out there and just play as though they're playing for their incentive bonuses?
Yeah. You would think so. Sacks incentives and all that kind of stuff.
I'm supposed to be hard on the end here. Nope, I'm going upfield to get this sack. And it was a draw.
Yeah. I would love to see this Tennessee Titans team, have a bounce back game on defense and offense to actually just score. Like if the Titans scored double-digit points a couple weeks ago, they beat the Jaguars because the defense showed up and did their job for the most part. So that defense needs to show up. And what's interesting, because we're talking about Cedric Gray, think about it. If Cedric Gray turns out to be what you thought he was.
He's turning. I mean, he's showing some promise here as a young player.
If he continues that trajectory over these next 2 games, this draft class looks really good. Now, it's not filled with elite playmakers or anything.
Really good.
But you just needed really good players. You've been devoid of talent for so long. So you just kind of needed that situation. So you got to make sure that if that really hits, then that solves another issue for this Tennessee Titans team because there's so many holes on this team to begin with. But if you got, Latham locked down at left tackle, then you have Tavondre Sweat up the middle. You have Cedric Gray in the middle as well, in the middle of the field. Then Jarvis Brownlee Jr. on the outside or in the slot. You have that flexibility. Jalen Harrell was making some, I don't know if you saw it, but our friend Stoney Keeley, who does Football and Other Efforts with me every Thursday at 6 p.m. right here on 104.5 The Zone, he showed a big-time effort play on a punt block, or not punt block, but a punt coverage unit. I mean, he went from 0 to 60 all the way down to the other side of the field and made a huge tackle on that. And, I know that Jalen Harrell's a 7th-round pick, but he's made a really good kind of contributing effort each and every week, even if it's not above average or anything. But that you need players like that. You need these role players. You also need players that can exceed draft expectations. But right now, this team needs, the Jalen Harrells and James Williams to just be Jalen Harrell and James Williams. They don't need them to be, Cam Wake and, Dre Greenlaw right now.
Right. Well, they're not going to be there at this point anyway. But I get your point. They just got to continue to grow and get better and see, actually what direction, the powers that be, Rand and Brinker and all those guys, even the head coach on who they want to draft and what position and holes and get it, prioritized where they need to go first and second and third and everything else. I think these guys have some promise. I think James Williams still has a ways to go in live action. I think his upside is there. He has the potential, but I got to see more of him. But immediately, Gray, I see it. I mean, man, it's like...
And that was a guy kind of like that had a up and down training camp, too, if you remember. He kind of got mixed in with everybody else.
Yeah, we had the injury, and he was trying to probably play through it. Even in college, he's shown more. He was more an athlete, athletic, run around blocks. And then in the pros, you never really, at least in college, you didn't get to see him, come downhill, bang on the guard, and then go make the play. You didn't see a lot of that in his because he was just so much faster than everybody else. I'm getting to see that now. And that's why I'm saying I think he's figured it out. Maybe standing on the sideline sometimes helps. The tenacity and the fire that you got to play with, let alone how smart you have to be, and you can't let your emotions control you when you're out there. I like what I mean, man, he is close. Williams, he just plays. I want to see some fire. I want to see him punch some people at the line. If he doesn't beat them athletically quickly, then sometimes he looks a little lost. And I think that was sometimes on some of those big runs that happened. Unfortunately, they had young players out there. That's okay. He's growing and learning. But at the same time, that worst case scenario going into next season, you say, we got us a quality special teamer and a solid backup now at this point, guy converting from safety to linebacker.
Well, we also talk about, you got to have this desire and this effort to play certain positions. And in Cedric Gray is probably, you got to make the most of your opportunities. I mean, think about David Long, right? He made the most of his opportunities in spot duty when he first got into the league. And then all of a sudden, in a 3-year span, he went from, can't believe we cut him, really great player, got cut from the second practice squad unit that he's been cut from. He got cut from the Lions and now got cut from the Titans. After being cut from the Dolphins, life in the NFL comes at you fast. And I love when I see a young guy get his opportunity. That's why I always liked Otis Reese on tape.
I did too.
Because he just played with a fire because he knew
Converted
this may be
safety.
my only opportunity. And Cedric Gray playing with that same fire really bodes well for a draft pick that you wanted to lean on this year, but injuries kind of, made that not be a possibility. So it's really good to see that kind of stuff, stuff that you want to see from your players in a season where there's not a lot to hang your hat on.
Oh my.
This young draft class has a lot of bright spots and a lot of bright moments to it, and that's something that we need to make sure it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of a bad season. We'll continue the discussion about the Tennessee Titans and the NFL draft. We're going to go to Benny when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Stinky, stinky, stinky. Is that what it was like the last time you were at an auto repair shop? Smelly, greasy, old rags laying around, a countertop that you would not dare touch. Another thing that stinks is the repair shops that keep your car forever. And they're not honest. They don't call you back when they say they will. Was that your last experience at a vehicle repair shop? Well, hey, it's Blaine Bishop to tell you about Eurofix. And it takes the stink out of European auto repair. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit and no high-pressure sales tactics. And at Eurofix, you also get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loan a car with every repair appointment. You never pay dealer pricing. Family-owned for 26 years. Located all over the state of Tennessee in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But I was done playing, Joe.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. Hope everybody had happy holidays, and even wish everybody a happy holidays, or hope you had them.
Yeah, me and you both were cooks, so I cooked my prime rib. I was all in, man. It was fabulous.
I made the mistake.
I got lucky, though.
I made the mistake of having too many pots on the stove, and about 2 or 3 minutes, my prime rib cooked a little bit longer than it should have. Ooh. That's a personal preference. Everybody else loved it, but and people went back for seconds, but I was just like, dang, but what about me?
You're searching for perfection. That's always the case, man. I got lucky. That's why I said I got lucky. I was searching for it, and it just happened. I usually overcook it myself.
Yep. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Benny in Lebanon, who wants to talk about the draft. Benny, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hello, guys. How are y'all doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Doing all right. Hey, I got a 2-part question here. The first one is, what happens to the player and to the team that picks first if they was to pick Shedeur Sanders, and then he says, I don't want to play for y'all?
Is that both questions all in one?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure because I have a bad habit of hanging up on people when they're not done. But thanks for the call, Benny. So essentially, the pre-draft process lets you know, like that there's going to be some frank discussions, going to be some concerns, and all that kind of stuff. Now, what can happen? I think it's only happened maybe once in the entirety of the NFL's draft's history. And don't ask me to name the player; I'm not exactly sure, but. It may never happen at all, but I think only once. But what a player can do if they're drafted by a team that doesn't want them, they can actually sit out the entire year and re-enter the draft because you don't sign your rookie contract ever, and then you re-enter the draft the next year. But to prevent that, teams are going to know. Like if let's say Carolina was number 1, they've heard all the public comments made by Deion Sanders and all this and that. They would probably get told at some point in their interview process, we're not going to come to you if you draft us. So they just don't draft him. I mean, at that point, you just don't draft the guy because what if they are telling the truth? You know what I'm saying? Like, if they're pretty, adamant about it, then they're not going to draft you. Is how I view it.
You're woman. I could give you 2 versions of this. I guess it has never happened, but if it was me and I'm up in the organization and he doesn't want to play for us, I'm definitely drafting him.
Right.
Here's why. Because I want to get value out of him. He may not show up, but somebody's going to want him. I can't just let him walk free and he was the number 1 pick and I get nothing. And we earned the right to be sucky and get a first pick of the draft. I'm going to get me at least a first and a third, if not more, for somebody who wants his value. You then leave that up to his agent. So hopefully you can get that done before that process ever even happened, as you were talking about the pre-draft process, then we will then facilitate and hopefully come to some agreement where he gets traded out of that pick. But I eventually draft him and then they have the.
And then you can just flip them and all this stuff. There's other avenues to it, but most people, like if it came down to it, nobody's calling your phone wanting to trade for the guy.
Well, then I'll live with him. Yeah,
you're just gonna live with it.
Yeah, he just don't show. I really firmly believe I'm the type, if I was a GM, I'd love to dare a player or an agent, because agents really run this business, to think that they're going to dictate to this league and the 32 owners that are in here to say that you're not going to play. You're going to find somebody. It's no different than Will Levis could do the exact same next year, going in and say, hey, man, y'all don't move me. I'm just not going to show up.
Yeah.
Right. See, that's what's going to happen. So you say, I'm going to move him. Right. So you find a way. You say, you go find a spot and we'll hopefully come to an agreement. That's what happens. So to me, that's how I parlay this, because if he's that good, and by the way, we still need a quarterback. And guess what? Sometimes money talks.
That's true.
So you got to play this game, and not the game that they make up lies about players, but just that game of business. That's just business. It's the price of business. So that's kind of how I would approach it. If I had the number 1 pick and he doesn't want to play for us, and that's pretty out there, I'm going to make sure I get that done before the pick is even.
Got to weigh that risk and reward, right? I mean, that's part of that's the whole entire draft, not just.
I want to say it was Irsay who did that to Cornelius Bennett.
Oh, yeah?
It was before my time, so I was in middle school, but I want to say he did that when he was with the Colts. Cornelius Bennett was drafted by the Colts, and he sat out the entire year. I think that may be right, if I was guessing.
How did Cornelius
He sat out the
Bennett's-
whole entire year.
Yeah, how did his career turn out in the NFL?
Well, really good. He ended up being with the Bills. They traded him, and then he played all over the place. He's really, to me, he's a Hall of Fame player. It's just that he was good at everything. Good pass rusher, good cover guy, so his stats are split up like 50,
Gotcha.
50. But the guy was a phenomenal player. Super duper athlete, off the charts. He went to Alabama. Don't you know Cornelius Bennett? He was the first of the first. See, that was before your era. You might not
that may be before me.
You might not even been born.
I may not have. I mean, that may be
Cornelius
like
Bennett was
3 years
probably
old.
in the early 80s draft, or not 80. Yeah, but Colts was there in 84. So I might have been that first, second or third year. We can look it up, but that happened.
That would be before my time. I mean, I would before my football time.
He was the first of the pass rushers. And I'm telling you, he was they called him the Biscuit.
The Biscuit? Mm-hmm. Well, so why the Biscuit?
I have no idea.
You don't have any idea,
I just
but you
know
just call the
that
Biscuit.
I made sure I stayed far away when I got into the league, that big away from the Biscuit, because the Biscuit was not playing.
All right, let's go to more of your phones. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. We're going to go to Charlie first. You want to talk about Bo Jackson. Charlie, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
15, 16,
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, you were talking about the first overall pick. Bo Jackson was actually drafted by the Buccaneers in '86, and they had screwed him out of. They conned him into going down there to Tampa Bay and paid for his flight and all this stuff. Anyways, the NCAA got involved, and he wound up not getting to run track or play baseball his senior year at Auburn, and he held it against them. So they drafted him first overall, and he refused to sign with them. So no, they didn't trade him. The following year, he re-entered the draft.
Oh, yeah.
And the Los Angeles Raiders drafted him. I believe it was the 7th round. It may have been the 6th, but I believe it was the 7th round. The Raiders drafted him. Best 7th round draft pick ever.
Yeah.
There you go.
The rules are different, and that's right. That's why I think the Bennett thing happened. Yeah. Might have to look that up.
Yeah, you have to look it up. Let's go Jim in Nashville who wants to talk about the draft. Jim, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Doing good.
Hey, man, good. Happy holidays.
I was going to say Bo Jackson, and I think Elway didn't want to play for a team. I don't know if he did it before the draft.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yes.
Elway did it, and I believe Eli Manning done it.
I think Eli Manning definitely did. I think Elway was supposed to go to the Colts, and then they traded him to the Broncos. I think that's what happened.
Yep, I believe so. I don't remember the specifics of it.
That was 1984?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm guessing. I'm pulling out my back pocket. I have no idea.
Hey, y'all have a great day.
Hey, you too. So here we go. 1983 NFL draft.
83.
So it was the quarterback class of 1983. Elway was the first of 6 quarterbacks selected in the first round. Elway was wary of playing for the Colts, among the worst teams in the league, and his father advised him against playing for head coach Frank Cush, who had a reputation as a harsh taskmaster. And Elway told the Colts in December of 1982 before the draft that he did not want to play for the team, and later told the Colts that he wanted to play on the West Coast for the Cowboys or the Dolphins on the East Coast.
Oh.
After unsuccessfully attempting to negotiate a private agreement with the Colts in which Elway would cite his alleged desire to remain on the West Coast to explain the team trading him, Elway publicly threatened to join the Yankees full-time if the Colts did not trade him. Demoff wrote in his journal, published 3 decades later, that he would be a garbage collector before he'd play for Baltimore. That was Elway's, what he was saying. I'd be a garbage collector before I play for Baltimore. Mm-hmm. So that all went down. So all kinds of stuff was insane about John Elway and everything. So has happened a few times. And
I think the Colts are part of both of those, or 2 of them anyway. But the Elway was the one, because that was that 83 draft, which was a big-time draft. I think for quarterbacks, was Dan Marino on that one too?
Yeah, so no successful trade before the draft.
Right.
Colts had to draft Elway and possibly trade him later. And then it's insane. I mean, like, they ended up drafting him and trading him.
Yeah. It's been a history, especially with Irsay there at the top in the Colts. I think he's done it a couple of times, so I don't know. I forget who was the top pick for Eli as far as the team that he did not want to go to.
The Chargers. Because as Phillip Rivers, they did like a little switcheroo or whatever.
So, there you go.
All right, we'll talk more about Tennessee Titans and the draft. 615-737-1045 if you want to get on the conversation. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 1045 The Zone.
Hello, I'm Ashley Northington, Chair of Moving Forward of Middle Tennessee. The upcoming transit referendum is a game changer for our economy, business leaders, and the entire community. A robust transit system is essential for a thriving economy. With 54 miles of high-capacity transit corridors and 86 miles of new sidewalks, this plan enhances Nashville's connectivity, making it easier for everyone to get where they need to go. This isn't just about transportation, it's about economic empowerment. For business leaders, reliable transit means a more productive workforce. Shorter commutes boost productivity and job satisfaction, helping businesses attract and retain top talent. Improved transit also drives sales and supports local economies by making it easier for customers to reach businesses. The benefits extend to the entire community, connecting people to essential services, education, and recreation. This creates a more inclusive city where everyone can access the resources they need to thrive. Supporting the Choose How You Move transit referendum is an investment in our future. This is about creating a city where businesses can flourish, residents can thrive, and the community enjoys a higher quality of life. Join me in backing this transformative opportunity. Let's build a Nashville where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and to prosper. Visit the link in the caption to learn more about the referendum, how it will support our community, and how you can get involved. Thank you.
Hour 2 of Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And Blaine, all this kind of quarterback talk has got me thinking about something. Now, we know, or we don't necessarily know, but we assume, and there's a logical conclusion to be drawn that Shedeur Sanders is a great fit for the Callahan offense. But that doesn't really mean much in the big scheme of things, because my question to you is, if you have the chance to draft a quarterback of the future, if you're in that 1 or 2 spot, right, like that number 1 or number 2 spot to draft a quarterback of the future, do you think, this was a question that was posed from A to Z Sports this morning on their show, and I thought it was very interesting, the results, because they got poll and everything, the results. Do you think that is the time to just go ahead and clean house and bring in a new head coach, new GM, and new quarterback? Or do you think that in your world, in your preference, if you're Amy Adams Strunk and you know that Brian Callahan and Shedeur Sanders are a fit, and Shedeur will come here, that you let that ride out? Because we've all seen a quarterback can change so much about the team, regardless of the talent around them. But we've also seen regimes where they just do a clean sweep of almost everything and start everybody on day 1, page 1.
Well, I would go back to, your foundation question, because it doesn't matter who's the quarterback. If you don't have the pieces around them, they're going to fail. So I'd really look at, the foundational pieces, and do we have enough to, help the quarterback, whether it's a rookie quarterback or a veteran quarterback. At this point in time, will still be average. So what's your timeline, your range? Do you think it's a year process? Do you think it's a 2 or 3 year process of getting the team where we think it should be, where it's not only competitive, but, at least making it to the playoffs? So those are kind of the questions that I don't really know. So yeah, that's a tough one there, man. I don't know. To me, it's based off of what's available. So who's available in free agency at quarterback? How can you get them via trade at quarterback, maybe, or do you go draft? Now, if you go draft, then that opens up the window. You want to say, I want this coach to be with them at least 2 or 3 years. So then that buys you time if you're an OC or head coach.
Does it buy this regime time if they were to draft one?
Right. If they draft one, that should be able to buy them another year after that first year.
It should.
It should, but most people don't think that way. But you just got to look at Caleb Williams. It didn't.
Right. And see, that's the case to blow it all up if you're drafting a quarterback, because now you have to find, now you're trying to find a head coach that fits Caleb Williams, right? And as we have seen, not everybody comes in thinking that, oh, man, this quarterback's not going to fit my scheme. They're coming in thinking, I'm going to get this quarterback to fit my scheme, right? And then maybe that's the wrong approach, because we're seeing here that Will Levis obviously does not fit this scheme, and maybe it was the wrong approach to try to turn him into something that he's not, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we'll see what Will Levis is, here from here on out in his NFL career. But it's just interesting, like, you kind of already knew that Matt Eberflus was on the hot seat. I mean, like, literally the hottest of hot seats coming into this season. Drafting a quarterback to where then they have to do a new head coach, new system in year 2, because you already knew you're likely going to fire him. Like, they were drafting Caleb Williams to save Matt Eberflus, not, trying to build a team and a foundation. And it just seemed like it was odd timing to do something like that. So, in this instance, and really, let's be honest, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward would probably still be 4th or 5th best quarterback in last year's draft class, right? So, like, we're not talking about, Jaden Daniels. We're not talking about Drake May. We're not talking about Caleb Williams in terms of elite talent that they have all shown throughout their college years. We're talking about kind of like a second-tier kind of issue where you're thinking, okay, maybe Shedeur Sanders is Bo Nix. Maybe he's Michael Penix Jr. Maybe Cam Ward is more Will Levis than we want to admit. Like, he's that second tier of quarterback. And if you're in that scenario, Is it better to have the stability or better just to start all over at the same point and everybody's on day one? It's an interesting question.
Well, I think the odds are against the Titans in that they'll have the top 2 picks.
Yeah.
So the real question then is, do you take Hunter or your pass rush guy? See, so then that lends me to think this. This is what I would do if I'm in the Titans. And I've said it before. I'd get me a veteran quarterback. Whoever the coach thinks is best, whether that's Browning, whether that's Derek Carr, whoever, Darnold. Who do you want to work with? And then guess what? I'm still may draft a quarterback, just not high. I may put him in the middle rounds.
Right.
I may go get my pass rusher. I may go get me a playmaker. All right. So now I'm fixing 2 things and really 3 things. If I got a quarterback that's a veteran that is not going to make his own unforced errors, it's going to be earned by the other team. All right. So where else do I need it? So you get your quarterback, pass rusher, and playmaker. All right there in 2 picks.
Yep.
I go, now where do we go from here? Now, do you have to, subtract some players who underperformed or because of injuries or what have you? You start looking at your roster and where you need to go from there. That's kind of how I approach it. But I still would draft a quarterback. Hopefully, I would pick the right one in, let's say, 4th, 5th round, maybe even later if I think I can hit a home run and come up with I'm not going to say Brock Purdy, but someone who becomes a bona fide number 2 in this league. And potentially, could be a sub, somebody who throws the ball on time that fits this scheme and system. Not the highest rated player, the player that fits my scheme and system, because ultimately, that's what matters the most.
Right.
And they'll have enough talent to execute. That's it.
Because that was the big thing. I mean, fit is so important.
Yeah.
And obviously, Will Levis does not fit this scheme. And maybe there is, we kind of talked about it before we went on Christmas break. The coaching should share in some blame in not finding a way to get the system to work around Will Levis instead of trying to find a way to get Will Levis to work around the system. Yep. That's league wide. That's a league wide issue. It's kind of crazy how some of these offensive coordinators or offensive head coaches, or even you're just head coaches in general on the defense side of the ball, find a player that does not fit their system, and then they try to make them something that they're not. Because that happens on defense, too. And I believe you were kind of talking about it. If you had to play in a cover 2 defense, you would have, maybe I'm misquoting which defense scheme you said, but you said that, sometimes it's all about player fit in the scheme.
Yeah, no doubt. I talked about this morning on 92Q, which I've been doing there been on there for 5-6 years. And I talked about how schemes and system and right place, right time. I think sometimes coaches think they can coach them into their scheme instead of just say, hey, this is what this player is. Let's work around what he is good at.
Yeah.
Not your system. Your system shouldn't be the forefront when you draft a player, especially a quarterback. You know the tools he has. Now, you may not know what's in between his ears, but you know what his tools are. So to me, the great coaches work around him. If you're trying to put a peg in a small hole and it can't fit, that's what you're actually doing, and you're trying to make him fit your scheme. So what I was giving an example of, if I would have came into the league, when I first got into the league, I wouldn't have been a cover 2 guy or, a half field safety. I came in as a corner, and I played nickel when I first got in. So I would have been tall enough to be on the outside, and I wasn't fast enough. So it was all those things came into play. So what they said was, eventually with some injuries, they said, this guy knows football. This guy is smart. Let's put him where we can utilize him in our scheme to help us be better. And then it worked out. Then some injuries and, things happen. And the next thing you know, I'm out there at safety. Do you think I wanted to play safety? No. I had no parts and choice in that whole process. So what I did was accept it, and to a certain extent, say I'm going to be the best I can be, and hopefully it'll all work itself out. So I think we could say it's world, or league-wide or college football-wide, but at the same time, the really good coaches try to find ways to win with what your skill set is. Now, sometimes that's a lot more difficult than just saying it because you only know one way. And to me, players make systems, not system make players. I think it's the other way around. So I think that getting the right players to fit your system, if they don't fit your system, then that's on you for drafting them, not necessarily Callahan because he did not draft him. But then that's on you to say, okay, we see what he is now at this point. How do we work around his deficiencies? And that's
players over plays.
Right. And that's what I was saying earlier, a couple earlier days this week, is because that's what Bill Belichick does. He didn't have the most talent, but when he was there, he worked around the talent he had. Watch this. Tom Brady went 6th round. There's a reason why he went 6th round.
Right.
He wasn't the most gifted arm thrower, runner, any of that. Guess what? But his mind was A++. See that? So then they said, we're going to do the quick passing game. He changed what they did to fit him. He wasn't a big arm like Drew Bledsoe. Drew Bledsoe could throw it like a cannon like Josh Allen. He could throw it out the stadium. But they didn't keep running that offense, right? So that, to me, is a sign of great coaching. So you can't change your whole system, but you try to work around it. And then you're now working in unison together. And then next thing you know, you blossom as a player and as a coach.
Yep, that's how it works. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the improvements that the Tennessee Titans have made. I know, again, it's a 3-13 season, or a 3-12 season so far. So there's not a lot of improvements to be made, but there are signs of certain areas have improved from year over year. And sometimes it's if you're presenting a case, that's kind of what you have to look at. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what Nick Holt said about the red zone and the troubles that they've had scoring in the red zone and why the recent turn has gone now to 7-7 over these last few weeks. We'll talk about all of that here on Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. What?
Did you guys watch the halftime show by Beyonce?
I had to go back and watch
Did
it because we had it. We were listening to Christmas music while the game was on, and we were playing cards.
Oh, well, you've seen the performance.
And so I had to go back and watch it. But it was awesome.
I saw. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I know a lot of people on the internet, and people were not happy about it. I don't know why. I thought it took a lot to do all that. And plus, she's from Houston, too.
Yeah.
So I met her years ago. I think she was around 21 or so at that time. But her career was nowhere near where it is today. And I thought it was fabulous. I don't know if it's just because what she was singing or what. But, man, all the things that were going on there, man, that was a heck. I felt like I was at a concert watching it or at a Super Bowl.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I love how you said a few years ago. She was like 21 a few years ago.
No, I know, right?
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I was actually playing for the Oilers. So, yeah, it was really long.
What did you think of those games yesterday? I mean, C.J. Stroud has, and listen, I don't know if it's C.J. Stroud or, hey, let's talk about the scheme, but I don't know which one it is, but man, I was like, this team stinks. I mean, is not good. And they're locked now, Blaine. I don't know if you know this or not. They're locked into the 4th seed. There's nothing that can happen over these next 2 weeks to get them out of the 4th seed. So do they rest players the final week of the season? And that's going to be the question that we're going to have to, figure out when time comes. Or is D'Amico Ryan going to say, hey, you guys haven't played good enough to be rested?
Who do they play the last 2 games?
Because the Titans are the very last game.
I know the last game, but the reason why I say this is because they could actually lose both games, and can they get out? And the Colts,
they're locked.
I know you said locked, but if the Colts win both, did they beat the Colts twice?
No, because the Chiefs. It does not matter because the Chiefs have now effectively eliminated the Colts from playoff contention because of their win. So they pushed someone else down. There's no way that the Texans. Only 2 teams have locked in the AFC. Kansas City is number 1. Mm-hmm. Texans are number 4. So there's nothing that can change.
Yeah, AFC South was horrific this year. The Titans being the Texans this season, we thought that was, at least I did, thought that was like, maybe we've turned the corner. No, not so fast, my friend. And he didn't look good in that. I told C.J. Stroud, people figure you out. I don't know if it's the offense. Ultimately, he's out there, and he's still throwing the ball but sometimes to the wrong people.
The deep shots are that deep ball accuracy has regressed this year, and sometimes that's just the defensive schemes you're facing, maybe tougher opponents than what you had the prior year. Mm-hmm. You go from a fairly easy, 4th ranked strength of schedule in 2022 or 2023, and then you got a number 1 kind of strength of schedule in 2024. Like that stuff all plays into these factors. So it'll be really interesting to see what year 3 looks like because people in Houston are calling for heads to roll, and I think they're all pointing at Bobby Slowick. I mean, they're pointing at Bobby Slowick to get out.
Wow.
So
in 1 year.
In 1 year, I mean, that's how quick this NFL moves, right? Like in 1 year, you go from boy genius, Bobby Slowick, right? Everybody thought he was the next Kyle Shanahan. He's from the Kyle Shanahan tree. And the next year, you're chopped liver because the NFL kind of figured it out, and you haven't. And your players, you haven't made your adjustments. Your players aren't executing that's how the NFL works because we've seen bad coaches become great coaches.
31-2.
31-2.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I think the line, I went back after the game. I was like, damn, I wonder what the line was. It was only like 7 points. I was like, oh my God. Vegas got that wrong. They
definitely got it wrong.
I was like, oh man, they're definitely not the same team.
And then if you've noticed, now people are wanting Justin Fields to play for Russell Wilson in the Steelers because Justin Fields is over his first 6 games was 3-0 against playoff teams, 4-2 record. Russell Wilson's last 6 games, he's 2-4, 0-3 versus playoff teams.
And making turnovers in the red zone.
Yep.
Veteran quarterback.
And there you go. I mean, and Art Smith, pretty good red zone play caller.
Yeah.
We've seen it here firsthand.
It was those throws. I'm a supporter of Russell Wilson, but I was like, what are you doing, Russell?
Yeah.
Oh man, I was sometimes you try too hard to make a play when it's not there. Then he had a couple bad throws. It was like, man. I know one thing though, Russell Wilson at quarterback, him and Carl Pickens' son, they have connection.
Yeah.
Every time I watch them play, and when Justin Fields out there, he doesn't throw as well on the outside for whatever reason, at least to Pickens. Pickens is a phenomenal athlete, boy. They just gotta keep him contained and keep him happy because some plays he takes plays off and just stands there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little different guy.
I like George Pickens coming out of college.
From Georgia.
And he's had some issues. Some issues on the field, off the field, and all that kind of stuff. But he's a special talent. I wish he would put it all together because I think he could be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL if he would just put it all together and have a quarterback throw him the ball.
Yeah, I think you're right on to something, but that just shows you he may be the most talented wide receiver up at the top 3. Just on his talent. Man, some of the catches he makes, you go, what? Yeah, they just got to will him in and keep him on the right path and keep his mind right because you could tell he was up there throwing up his hands on the side, like all that. You don't need any of that. And, even if it wasn't even thrown at him.
Yeah. It's just so interesting how the NFL narratives change week to week and how we think we know one thing. This is why I love the NFL. We think we know one thing the next week and then we're totally proven wrong that following Sunday.
Get food. No, I learned this as a player. Like, oh, man, I remember my wife used to be like, oh, man, y'all play that team. They only won 2 games.
Yeah.
Honey, this team is good. I've watched them. I'm trying to tell you, at least the people I'm going against. I don't know about the record. All these guys are elite, and if you don't bring your freaking A game, they will catch you. And you know what's really crazy? I'm going to just say this. It has nothing to do with what we said, but it made me think about this. I saw my man Rick Bohalter, who is the head trainer for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was the Eagles trainer, of course, when I was there with Andy Reid. Andy Reid always takes his guys everywhere. And he said that the Chiefs had played 3 games in 11 days. Yeah. Where is the safety of the players there, Mr. Sheriff?
I know.
Roger.
I mean, this is ridiculous. I think the Texans are pretty close to that and everything.
Oh, my gosh.
And I want to throw something out there.
Oh, man. That's not good, man.
Andy Reid, Coach of the Year, I think needs to be a discussion. He's doing, and listen, they didn't have Chris Jones yesterday, and that defense looked phenomenal against the Steelers. And maybe
was my safeties coach.
Yeah. But I
texted him, dude.
I kind of look at it and I go, maybe it's just because they played Russell Wilson. But if you go to the week before, Chiefs defense really turned it on. Travis Kelce, I guess, is awoken from his slumber. He's starting to,
rev it up.
They're all starting to rev it up towards the playoffs.
That's what they always do.
Yeah.
Remember now, they always have the longest season. And so it takes them in. That's why it was crazy. They were winning games. They weren't playing well. Trust me, I talked to Spags. The defense was carrying the team early on in the season.
No doubt.
And then Mahomes would be Mahomes at the end of games. Yeah. And then he's clutch, Then that's all they need to do is make sure we kept it close till he got the ball. And then he would turn it up. So, and now Kelsey is, turning it up. So, yeah, they got to be. I wish. Man, don't you guys wish? Buffalo, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. Why are they all in the AFC?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, maybe we throw in the Eagles, okay.
Yeah.
But, man, those 4 teams, man, I wish somehow, some way they made it to the Final Four.
And it's a clear divide between those 3 teams and the rest of the AFC. Really, if you watch that Texans team play, you would have thought that they did not have a winning record. You would have thought they were one of the worst teams in the league just by how much the Baltimore Ravens embarrassed them. And let me say something. Josh Allen was my MVP choice, at the beginning of the year, and I was like, oh man, I'm telling you, Josh Allen will be in that discussion.
Yeah, he is.
He could be in the discussion all he wants, but it's going to be a discussion at second place because Lamar Jackson is the MVP. I mean, he was making plays these last. Oh my God! I mean, that's when you really know. Man, I wish the Titans had a quarterback like that. And I said the same thing about when Josh Allen and Matt Stafford were dealing blows to each other. You just really realize when you watch some games just how far off the talent level of the NFL quarterback really is and how hard it is to find a guy like that. I mean, again, Lamar Jackson was way late in that draft, right?
Yeah, he kept on saying he could throw. I said, I don't know what they've been watching. He can throw. He won the Heisman. I mean, this guy, it was hilarious for me, man. How is he going through progression reads and all this, but to say he couldn't throw it,
right?
I was like, come on, man.
I mean, you just really realize
he's special.
Well, he's special, but you also realize, man, like, can Shedeur Sanders be that guy for you? And that's another question, like, it's hard to find a quarterback like that. And people, because, like, I fully do kind of expect, like, Jaden Daniels, as good as the year they has, is going to have a sophomore slump similar to what C.J. Stroud is. Whether that's because that, Cliff Kingsbury's offense is going to, not be the same as it was, or if it's because he's got a new offensive coordinator. But, like, C.J. Stroud is still a good quarterback. It's still a quarterback you would rather have over any of the quarterbacks on the Titans roster, over any quarterback in the AFC South by a wide margin. But is he there yet with those guys? And he's still got time, but it's hard to find that quarterback that provides that much hope like those quarterbacks did for their franchises so early on in their careers, and they sustained it.
Yeah. If I'm drafting a quarterback, to think that my quarterback's going to be as good as Lamar, Josh Allen, or Mahomes, I'm not going to go that far.
Right.
They're all different there. Shadeur's not the runner that both of him and Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to win the MVP. Now, that doesn't mean that Lamar won't win it. I think it's made it a lot easier because they have the king in the backfield. Yeah. And now he's finally turned the corner, just understand the path, and he's not pressing. The true test will be when he plays Josh Allen, because then that's when he presses and tries to make the plays because he feels like it's all on him. Well, does that change now that he has the king in the backfield? All righty. And then, will he be patient? I mean, I counted one time, 7 seconds to throw the ball. I don't care if you're Deion Sanders. You're not covering nobody for 7 seconds. Yeah. He did it kind of routinely in this game.
He did. Those were some insane throws.
Right. They were. So they were. And it's an argument, but guess what? There was an argument when he won it and somebody else should have won it, right? Yeah. So I think this year maybe he gets to the AFC Championship and we don't know who wins that, but somebody else wins the MVP. And I'm going to say this, between those three quarterbacks, we're talking about Lamar, Josh Allen, and Mahomes. It's not who's the best because they don't play each other. They play the defenses. It's actually who has the ball last is going to be the winner of each of those games whenever they play each other. The team with the ball last, that quarterback's got to come up with the plays, and that's who's going to be deserving. And I wish then they lead the MVP after that, because then, to me, that's who gets it. Because usually the MVP plays okay in the playoffs, but the guy who was fighting to get it, ends up playing better.
I mean, what do you think of Joe Burrow being in the race, in the conversation? Because,
definitely, that's my favorite.
Because, you say MVP, most valuable player, and people automatically think that means wins, and your play equates to wins, which his play does. But he's been routinely let down by his defense throughout the year. But we're talking about a guy who's putting up points at an amazing rate, and he's doing it behind a bad offensive line, no defense, no defensive help. I mean, are we weighing wins a little too much when we discuss MVPs?
Well, I think so, but Burrow's my favorite. But right now, you have to have success to me also at the same time. If you're so good and you are the MVP, then you have to be able to overcome that and at least get them into the playoffs. And he's got two great weapons too, by the way, and a decent running back. So, as much as I love Burrow, he's right on the outside looking in. If they would have won a couple of those games that they lost close ones to, I think now we're in the discussion. But wins are a part of this whole process, unfortunately. That doesn't mean you're always the best player. It's no different than having the best stats at Pro Bowl or anything else. Everybody's elite. But at some point, you have to make a choice. And success of your team actually determines and helps you get the edge over Burrow, as much as I think he's the best quarterback. I said this before, even over Mahomes. That's who I would want over my quarterback. I just like his style. I like his confidence. I like how he plays the game. That started all the way when he was at LSU.
If I were to tell you, because we already talked about points per game, because we're talking about wins. Obviously, this Tennessee Titans team has less wins than they had the years before. But if I were to tell you that this team has the highest third down conversion rate compared to the last 2 years, wouldn't that blow your mind? Because I would have thought they would have been way lower than the last 2 years. And this team is converting third downs at a higher rate. Not good. Not a good high rate, but
I wonder what it is that you see.
Well, it went from 33.5% last year all the way up to 37.1%, which is still not good. It's still bottom. I think it's bottom in the league. But I would have thought it would have been worse than that, worse than last year.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay,
it all doesn't matter.
Just doesn't matter.
You're not winning. Like it's like when you were talking about the other day. The Ravens lead the league in penalties. Well, it doesn't matter because they're winning.
Yeah.
If they were losing, then it'd be a big issue. So that's what I would say. Yeah, these things. Now, you can look to that as positive from a inside house, about your offense or your team. But ultimately, it's not enough. It's not translating, whether that's the defense's fault, the special team's fault, or the offense just not making the plays in critical moments, but they're doing it inconsistently throughout a game. So, it sounds great on paper, but at the end of the day, did it help you win the game?
Well, and that's kind of where I'm kind of going with this, is that some of this stuff usually flattens out in the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're the most turnover heavy team. The next year you're not. And those things equate to wins. So like when we're talking about clearing house or cleaning house and stuff like that, like let's look at it this way. Let's look at Shedeur Sanders. Okay, Shedeur Sanders takes a lot of sacks. Probably most of them are unnecessary, but a large majority has a porous offensive line in front of him. He has had for the last 2 years. But you put him into a system where the offensive line is just a tad bit better. He looks a lot better, right? But when you look at this system for the Tennessee Titans in 2024, we're talking about a pressure to sack ratio of 10.1% for Mason Rudolph, where it's in the 30s for Will Levis. And they're kind of behind the same offensive line through the most part of their game, same overlap. So the question then becomes, okay, sacks went down with Mason Rudolph. What's the next step? So you get your sacks down with the quarterback, with whatever quarterback you bring in. You get your sacks down. Okay, you get definitive offensive improvement too, right?
So you're saying you're going to do this with a rookie quarterback?
Oh, that's the thing. No, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. You still have to improve your offensive line, obviously.
Oh, right. No, I got you.
But what I'm saying is, okay, so let's say you get your sacks down. Well, you still have to get all these other things down. Right. It's not just fixing quarterback. Fixing quarterback fixes a lot of your issues, but it's about when you're in the red zone, penalties. When you're the opposing, on defense, is Jeffrey Simmons going to have another personal foul penalty that leads to a touchdown? Are you going to, how many touchdowns are you going to have called back because of red zone penalties? Because that's something that Nick Holtz talked about today. Was that like, hey, yeah, we're 7 for 7 in the red zone the last 2 weeks, but what hurt us were penalties. So we didn't have a lot of penalties in the red zone this go around, and we were able to get touchdowns in there and stuff. But we haven't been making enough trips to the red zone to really, facilitate that, because really the Tennessee Titans right now are 16th in the league in red zone efficiency, but they don't have enough trips. 41 trips is not enough to start scoring more points for a team that needed all that. And they've had how many penalties taken, or how many touchdowns taken away from penalties, and they get moved out and they walk away with no points, right? How many times have we seen turnovers in the red zone that have led to no points? So fixing one issue, which offensive line is a big issue, and then finding a quarterback that can maybe lower his chances of being sacked through either throwing on time, throwaway, scrambling ability, whatever have you. Well, you still have all these other issues, but these issues tend to get fixed in the NFL on a year-to-year basis, maybe not by coaching, but sometimes just sheer luck. Because, how many times have we talked about turnover luck, in the NFL?
Definitely that, yeah. Also, experience.
Right.
Experience. You can go over something with a young player, but until it clicks in, and sometimes it just takes longer. Sometimes it's that they've been back up, and maybe, a veteran guy's out there making the mistakes, and then when they get the opportunity, then they start making their mistakes, and then they learn, not to do certain things because they think they've always been the most talented player, and they've been able to get away with it. So I just feel like it's discipline a part of this process? Absolutely. And we have young players, sometimes you think they got it, and they don't have it. So we shall see. Sometimes
you're kind of looking at a roster, like looking at it on game day, and you're like, Well, man, if you would have asked me in early August, if I would have thought player A, who was, our third string or fourth string guy, number 89 out of 90 players, was going to be starting the game, I've been like, holy crap, I can't believe this guy's
it all
playing
starts
for
with
us.
talent, no doubt. So, yeah, they definitely behind the 8 ball here. And now at the end of the season with some of the injuries, but, all those guys are looking for opportunities. And then sometimes you find some diamond in the rough. Like, you just don't know what you may find out here about how good a player is and had no insight on. Man, I think this guy is going to be part of our roster next year. He's going to be a contributor. And I think that's what this is all about right now. So, and, he's still trying to see if he can get a win. As a coach, you're always thinking about winning the game. There's no way around it. It's on his docket, under his watch. So I get it. You're trying to win games, man. So they just got to keep plotting it out and see if Mason Rudolph can get them to a win. I just don't know if we're going to get – I just don't know if the team is good enough, especially on defense when now sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't, or they're missing plays here or there. Then the offense takes its turn when it's, at the most inopportune time. It's just nothing can click on all cylinders where we've seen an entire game where we say this is a clean game. I just want to say that. And then let's think about, where were we at in winning the game?
Because even when they played complimentary football against the Texans or even the Patriots, it wasn't really a clean game. We have not seen a clean game. So we're going to talk more about that when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Foster 104.5 The Zone. Blending digital and also radio is one of the best things you can do. One, you get a lot of people in their cars that listen to us, and on the digital side, we can also show your products, talk about your products, see us, speak about you. So if you're in the business of wanting to be bigger, have a brand that everyone knows about, have me, Ramon Foster, or anyone at 104.5 The Zone endorse you, and I promise you, it'll be exactly what you want.
Hey, it's Rhett Bryan from 104.5 and of course Titans Radio, inviting you to join our team. If your business needs some promotion, needs some movement, I got 4 little letters for you. EPIC, E, everyone is invited on these offers. P, please contact your local representative when I give you this link and we'll get you started. I, include all of your pertinent information when you hit that link. And see, Cumulus Media. It's not just an audio company. We're not just radio. There are all kinds of digital products because you're watching this right now. It's gonna be epic. All you do is go to 1045thezone.com/epic.
What's happening is Ron Slade, known as Big Slade.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Stores. Last chance for phone calls, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. And we're going to go to Steve. Can I go to Steve? It says I got a server issue on my phone over here.
Yeah, that just popped up on my end, but it says he's still on there.
Okay,
so
we're going to try and go to Steve real quick. Nope, it's not picking Steve up. So we got a server issue just logged up on our phones. I've never seen this before, but got an IP address issue. So we're going to try to figure that out, Steve, so just stay patient. Hopefully we can get to you.
Got to put your account information.
But, Blaine, we've been talking about, this whole offensive identity and everything. But this defensive identity, I feel, has really struggled these last few weeks. It feels like they just can't seem to all get on the same page. And I've been watching a lot of the Pittsburgh Steelers the last few weeks, and I've seen a lot of people also, clip off all these things. But we saw it yesterday. There seems to be a lack of communication for even a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they're struggling with communicating with each other and all that kind of stuff. So I wonder, because they kind of talked about it today, was like, there seems to be a little bit of a communication issue. If one guy does something wrong, then the other guy doesn't know what to do. But they kind of talked about like an 11 players stop the run. It's kind of been the message. What do you take on all that?
Well, I mean, it's an indictment of the entire defense when what happened last week happens. And usually that could happen once a year, typically. Maybe. But that one there, man, guys are missing their gaps on a consistent basis. And then guys are missing tackles or assuming somebody else is going to make the tackle. I mean, so all those things play into that. But, man, I know I'm right there with Jeff, man. He had a great quote. If they don't want to play hard on our defense, then I don't want to be part of our defense. That's exactly how I would feel. You should take that personal. And when athletes at that level start taking stuff personal, then they're going to go out there and hopefully they don't try too hard. Then they start playing two gap. When I say two gap, show their head in one and then jump in another, and the other guy runs back in his back because he was supposed to be in that gap. You start trying too hard to make plays and just instead of just playing and doing your responsibility. So I would have been hitting home on all the little details and communication amongst one another. Hey, if I show here, this is what I'm going to do. Give me time. And then, guys make plays. So if that happens again, and I didn't say that after the Commanders game because I didn't think it would.
Right.
And this one here was more embarrassing because it was the Colts and it's a team you play and you know them really well. So I want to see how they respond to this.
All right, we're going to go to Steve, who wants to talk about Callahan and Levis. Steve, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, can y'all hear me now?
We can. Sweet. It wasn't an issue with your end, it was on our end.
Nah, it's good. No big deal. Happy post-Christmas, pre-New Year. So I've been hard on both of them. I don't trust the coaching staff. I'll say that. I'm going to look back, though. Just ponder this thought for a minute. Y'all talking about Callahan developing Burrow and developing Manning. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, he didn't develop Peyton Manning at all. Joe Burrow, maybe he had a part in it, but he never called plays. He's doing things that he shouldn't be doing right now. Maybe the topic of conversation in the offseason may be give Holtz the play-calling duties. Go to your strong suit. If you really develop, and I don't doubt he had a hand in developing Burrow, but he's not doing the same thing as a head coach right now because Levis isn't that bad either. Now, he's still probably not the one, but we don't know that yet. So all those things considered, look at and I know they said they're going to collaborate, but I don't think she'll fire him, but I think there'll be a lot of adjustments and moving. The last thing I'm going to say is this. If you really want him to win the next two games, and Blaine, I've watched since you've been playing, before you've been playing, right? We don't want to win any more games because we want to have a higher draft pick. And I know, the fan who doesn't want to win's great. No, you don't want to win any more games. Y'all have a good one.
You too. There's a lot to unpack there. So first, we've never said that they've developed on this show Peyton Manning. In fact, I've kind of pushed back on the whole quarterback guru, quarterback whisperer. Obviously, he would have had a hand. Maybe it takes a village kind of role over at with the young rookie quarterback with Brian Callahan rookie quarterback with Joe Burrow. He's obviously was involved in the development, but how much, how little, we've never really talked about that on this show. But I do think that this idea, if you go to Nick Holtz has never called plays. So, like, he's never called plays. Then you're probably starting at ground zero again with a rookie offensive play caller, and that's really not what you want to do. But I understand that, like, his overall premise was this idea that something has to give in a season like this, and that may be one of the things that technically gives. And maybe it's because Brian Callahan wants to give it up. Maybe it's because, hey, I took on too much this year. Let's make a transition next year. We've seen coaches do that all the time. Maybe that is the case. I don't know, but I don't know if giving the reins to Nick Holtz is going to solve the issues that we're currently seeing.
Wow, man, this is his first time getting a chance to call plays and being a head coach at the same time. And I think he's progressed and gotten better as the season gone along. So I really don't have a huge issue with that whole deal, and actually kind of like how it's separated. If he can continue to manage it, head coach Callahan with the quarterbacks coach Holtz in the meeting room. So that's really, if I'm sitting back as the owner, I'm not pushing back on any of that. And if I'm gonna push back on that, then I'll be like, hey, you got to hire a new OC. Because basically,
you would want an experienced OC.
Right,
you wouldn't want to give it to Nick Holtz.
Yeah, I would say, okay, let him be the quarterback's coach and bring in a new OC. Now we're mix and matching. You got to collaborate. Then now you are forcing your coach and play caller to do something that maybe he doesn't want to do, and that never works out well. So you want him to doom himself. You want him to make that kind of decision. Maybe you lead it down the road as a thought process when you're doing assessing after the season. Say, hey, what would you think about, hiring someone outside as a play caller? Your choice, and bringing a veteran person to kind of assist along the way, give you some different ideas. That's kind of how I would approach it if I'm an owner. Because when you start telling the coaches who to hire, they have to have their guys to make it all work, because you want your staff, just like your players, to have chemistry as well. And that's why they always hire guys they know or friends of, they all work in unison. So they know how each other operate. And now you don't have a conflicting staff, you have a collaborative staff.
Right.
So that would be a sensitive topic, but it's something that I would broach and I would bring up if I'm the owner, just to have a different voice to the offensive meeting room. Not to say you're going to do what they say. Naturally, you're the head coach. But have you ever thought about that, Callie? That's what I would ask.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of discussions like that as we go on. I mean, because to be honest, there has to be someone has to answer for it.
Yes.
Whether that is maybe just Will Levis is the guy that answers for it, or maybe it's the special teams coordinator, Colt Anderson. Heck, it could be Nick Holtz for all we know. Maybe he sees the door. But at the end of the day, someone has to answer for a season like that. And so I kind of understand where that maybe play calling, giving up, quote unquote, play calling, giving it up, maybe is the correct path and the path of least resistance, where not everybody's having to lose their job. So at the end of the day, you look at Brian Callahan. This was who Amy Adams Strunk and then Rand Carthon and Burke Nihill and all Chad Brinker, all those people that were in the room. This is the guy they believed in. You got to keep showing. Sometimes you got to show another year of belief in that head coach the next year. Does not mean anything. It could mean that maybe Brian Callahan turns into a great head coach. It could mean that he's the worst head coach. But at the end of the day, you showed belief in that. And you have to let it kind of play out a little bit longer than what it is. And I then turn that into Brian Callahan handpicked everybody. He went through 6 different interviews on top of Colt Anderson's interview to pick Colt Anderson. Maybe that was the bad move, but Colt Anderson has shown over these last few weeks that, hey, if I got the right players, I could do the right thing. Players over plays. And so now Brian Callahan has to kind of show that kind of same patience with his staff and see if they can't get it all together, if they can figure out players over plays. And I think that's the messaging they kind of have to kind of figure out at this point is, are we going to force our system, or are we going to get the best players that we can get and find ways to make sure that we put them in positions to succeed?
Yeah, put your players in the best position to succeed. That's all you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's what you got to be doing as a head coach. Well, that'll be it for us. 3HL's up next. They're live from the West Nashville Buffalo Wild Wings over near the Bellmead Shopping Center. So head on over there if you guys are in the area doing some day after Christmas shopping. We'll be back tomorrow. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. And in the meantime,
in between time.
Peace.